So pretty much everyone who knows me knows that I'm a Christian and knows that I'm pretty devout and pretty serious about my beliefs. But most people don't know why I'm a Christian. I'm at a point in my faith now where giving my life to Christ has changed me so much and has changed my life so much for the better that I want to share my testimony. The world is full of wickedness, and there's so much evil and pain going on in the world. And to be able to give some hope, even if it's just to one person, I feel like I'm at a point in my journey now where I just need to share my testimony. One of the first things people ask me when they find out that I'm a Christian, when they first meet me, is, oh, did you grow up in church? Is your family religious? When I say that I found Christ by myself, not through church or my family, they're quite surprised. I didn't come to church for the first time until February last year. I believe in God, not because I'm a Christian, but I believe in God because I see intelligent design in the whole world, in the universe. The depth and detail of creation is so incredible and complex that for this life to be real, there has to be an intelligent creator. And I think atheism is flawed in the sense that to deny the existence of an all-intelligent creator, you yourself have to be all-knowing. So atheism from the get-go is pretty flawed. I started praying to God when I was 15, what I thought was God, but I didn't open my Bible for the first time until I was 18. I'm a Christian because I believe this is who God says He is. This is the Word of God. A big part of why I'm a Christian is because I don't believe that I should be here today. When I look back through my life, I can see so many points in my life where God has almost pretty much stepped in and brought me out of it and really just saved me. And so I want to walk through my story and my testimony, and I hope, even if it just touches one person's heart or inspires one person or gives one person hope, I just want to share that. So when I was 4 years old, I was almost kidnapped. A man tried to kidnap me on holiday in Turkey. And literally my mum saved me from 10 seconds later. If my mum hadn't caught up to me, then I don't know where I would be. Dead, trafficked, I don't know. I was literally at the point where my mum had to fight this man off me from grabbing me and trying to put me in his car. This random man in Turkey. 5 or 10 seconds later, that door closed. If you locked the door, then I would have been gone. And even though I was 4 years old, I can vividly remember that, and I can vividly remember my mum fighting this man, being picked up by this man, and being put on his shoulder, and being almost forced into this car, and my mum coming out of nowhere and fighting this man, and me being on the floor whilst this fight is going on, looking up at the two of them. That's number one time I've been saved by God. And growing up, I was raised just by my mum. We were always, my mum worked really hard, and my mum's the strongest woman, the strongest woman I know. We lived in refuges. We were always at food banks. We were always living in a lot of poverty. We've been homeless numerous times, and that was throughout just most of my childhood. And there came a point in time where we were living with this one particular man who was incredibly abusive. Thankfully, I was never physically abused, but it nearly got to that point. And there was just always so much alcoholism, a lot of manipulation, and just kind of horrible living environment. But I was in a place where I used to write suicide notes. I used to do little sketches on the notes as well, where I would do stick men, jumping off a cliff. And I used to fantasize killing myself. Because it was that dire of a situation. Again, I won't go into too much details, but you can imagine kind of how bad it is just from that sense. And there was one particular night where things really kicked off, and the things around the house had been smashed, and walls kicked in, and there was just one particular night where things got really, 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 really bad. The next day after this particular one night, I ran away. And I was only 11 at this time, right? So, for an 11-year-old to be contemplating suicide, it sounds extreme, but it was extreme. We were in an extreme situation. I got on a train, and we were living in Lancashire at the time, so I got on a train from Lancashire, and I went all the way to Scarborough on my own. I had to get 2 different trains to to a friend's house. I didn't know at the time that this friend's house, there was also a lot of alcoholism and just really bad family situation, tension, divorce going on, a lot of alcoholism. So I was going from one bad situation to the next. After I kind of ran away, my mum left that place too, and she came to get me. And thankfully, we didn't go back there to that guy. But then we didn't have anywhere to stay. So we ended up having to stay with family for a little bit. And also growing up, when I was about 7 or 8 years old, I developed this incredibly rare skin condition where I had just like scabs and scars, and I would bleed just like all over my body, and like my whole body was covered in these scars and these scabs, and it was like I looked gross. And it got to the point where I was hospitalized multiple times for this, and I would have to wear these bandages. So my mum would had these moist bandages, which were like soaked in this special cream, which she would wrap me in them every morning, and I would like stand like this, and she would wrap me, and then like a dry bandage to keep that in place, and then a kind of like a body sleeve or a bodysuit that would keep everything in place, so that like my skin would be covered, and basically to try and like combat this like skin condition that I had. It was so rare that I would have to, I would be hospitalized for it. But I would also have like biopsies. I would have like chunks of my skin taken out for them to analyze. I was trying all these different creams and stuff. I could never like do any sports in school. I couldn't swim, and just walking around kind of, the Michelin man, like the tire guy. So that was never fun. And there was also one time where I had to be in this hospital, when I was in the hospital, and I had to stand in this room, and then about 100 doctors came in, and they would just like grab my arm, and they were like, looking at me and like having to just analyze me, I guess, so they could kind of figure out what this thing that I had was. Thankfully, I have also been delivered from that too. I was also bullied quite heavily throughout various different parts of my childhood. The most kind of vivid memory I have is when I was living in Liverpool. After swimming one day, we were in the changing rooms, just being spat on by like a gang of people. Yeah, just like kind of like tried to fight back at first, but when there's like people standing around you in like a circle and you're being spat on, that kind of it doesn't like make you angry, it just like really demoralizes you. And yeah, just bullied for various parts of my childhood too. In my teenage years, I had a lot of hormonal issues, and again, like kind of with everyone during COVID, I just had horrible mental health. And so I really believe that from all of those things, God really delivered me from them, and He's healed me a lot from them. And I see now that those things that happened in the past essentially like lit a fire inside of me to drive forward. You can kind of wallow in that situation, right? But He used that in me to teach me and to refine me. And if it wasn't for Him, I really believe that I would either be dead, I would have killed myself, or I would just be stuck in one of those situations that I'd have loads more health issues. So after we left this really abusive place, things were tough at first. And my mom really fought hard to provide for us, and gradually life improved. And it was around 15 years old that I started praying and reading in a fiction book where one of the characters talked about praying, even if you don't believe in God, improves your mental health. And at the time, I was getting into like self-improvement and like start going to the gym and like eating healthier food. So I was like, okay, cool, I'm going to try this. And then I noticed the more I prayed, I noticed more coincidences seemed to happen in my life. And I noticed my life seemed to improve just a little bit more. I'm praying, and eventually I kind of fall into New Age spirituality, witchcraft. I started to meditate, I started to do breath work, I started to read books like Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, and I started to delve into the spiritual side of life a bit more. And so I've lived in different communities. I've lived in communities with like 60 different people off-grid. I've lived in communities in Thailand, in Italy, in Tenerife. Some good, some really bad. I'm going to go into detail on that as well. Also just being around more spiritual people, you fall into this New Age mentality of thinking, right? Like Christ consciousness. You're raising your vibration, all those kind of things, which I now understand is demonic. And so when I was 18, I was living in a community in Tenerife, really, really beautiful community. There was one point where I was going to have to go home, and at the time, I didn't have any money, I didn't have a job. I didn't know what was going to happen. I did not want to go back to the UK at all. I'd been in this beautiful community. It had been a great time for a few months. And I was just furious at God. I was like, why are you doing it? Like, I've been through so much already. I have been praying, and it's like now there's more coming back at me. And I remember there was one night I was sitting on the beach, and it was pitch black. It was in the night. All I could see was the moon and like lights, street lights of the town that was like a few hundred meters away. So I was looking directly at the moon, and I was just like shouting at God. And I was like, why is this happening in my life? Why all these things? I've prayed so much, and I'm still going through all of this. And it was the first time in my life where God spoke to me. And it like all came at once. And it was just this voice that hit me. And I remember like I was shouting and shouting, and I just stopped because I heard his voice. And when you hear his voice, everything stops. And he said to me, everything you've prayed for, I have brought to you, I am bringing to you, or I will bring to you. All you need to do is have faith in me. And I was like crying on the beach. I was just like, oh my gosh. And also throughout a lot of my travels as well, trying to start up my own business. You know, I was homeless a bit with my mom when we were younger. I also had to like sleep on the streets at times when I was traveling because I didn't have any money, didn't have anywhere to stay. Maybe I was traveling between places. Yeah, I've slept in caves, I've slept in bushes, I've slept in parks, I've slept on beaches, not nice beaches. When I've asked for faith, or when God said I need to have faith in him, he's put me in positions where all I can rely on is faith. I have nothing else to rely on but faith, and just raw conversation and just open everything up to him. And so after this community, I went home, and then I was like, okay, I need to leave the UK again. And I went and I lived with shamans. And this is when the spiritual side of life became more and more intense. With these shamans, really, really lovely people, really nice people. We would do these sound journeys every week, voyage sonore. And I would, it wasn't until the last sound journey where you set an intention before the journey, right? And I asked for freedom. That's what I asked for. And I had a vision where I did the cross. I turned into the cross that Christ was crucified on. And just more like Christian, visions of Christ. And it was super intense. And I asked them about it afterwards, and they're like, oh, well, yeah, Christ was real, Christ was a real guy, but, everyone misinterprets the Bible, it's all about Christ consciousness, and he's an ascended master, and blah, 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 blah. And so I was like, all right, okay. Then eventually I learned that, all religions, all faiths, the one thing they all have in common is that they acknowledge Jesus. And all faiths and religions, they say, in their own way, I have found a way. I have a way to enlightenment, to heaven, to nirvana, to whatever it is. But Jesus Christ says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And when I first heard that really convicted me, and that really spoke to me. And so with these shamans as well, they had these trainees who would also practice on me, like voyage sonores. And I would have nightmares. I would be attacked by demons in nightmares. And towards the end of my stay there, I was really kind of on edge because I was like, what's going on, kind of thing. And after that, I went to a community in Italy. And this community was a former Osho school, circle school. And Osho was a spiritual guru in the 80s or 70s or 80s who led this spiritual movement. Kind of like most spiritual gurus, they seem great on the outside. But then once you look at them and you look at their life and you look at the way they live, they were really, really messed up people. And there were many messed up things that kind of happened. There's a Netflix documentary on him, I'm pretty sure. And anyway, when he died, he lost all of his money, and he had these communities around the world that all collapsed. And this British guy, came in, bought this old place, and was building a new community, and it's doing pretty well now, actually. But it was during this time, I was there kind of at the beginnings of it, and when you first arrive there, you have really, really demonic nightmares. And I remember one morning coming down for breakfast and just asking everyone, you guys having really scary nightmares. And they're like, yeah, like first few days that I've been here was horrible. So that was like, kind of first warning sign. And there was one day where we were chopping wood, collecting firewood in the forest. And everyone went in to go and get lunch, and I stayed out just to work a little bit more. And I went a bit further into the forest, and I saw a noose. And when I saw that noose, I ran back to the house. And then things just kind of kept on getting weirder from there. So there was one night, I think it was either that night or the night after, where I could not go into my room. There was something, here's the door for my room. I couldn't open the door. There was like something stopping me at the doorway, and I was like freaking out. And I went to my friend downstairs, and I was like, I can't go into my room. There was something in my room. And so she was also into like new age kind of stuff, and so she grabs some sage, and she's like burning sage, like it's gonna do anything. And she opens the door, she goes in there, and she's like waving the sage. And the way the room was built is, here's the door to go in, and just behind the door has another door to a bathroom. And I seen someone staring at me in the doorway of the bathroom. And I walk in, I see this person in the corner of my eye, and then I like stick to the wall, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's someone in there. There's someone in there. And then she goes in there with the sage, and she starts burning it, and nothing happens. And so I had always carried a Bible with me when I was traveling, but I never opened it until just after what I'm going to tell you now. I went to my other friend, and I was like, oh, can I just like sleep in your room tonight? I can't be in my room right now. And it was during that night that I was attacked by a demon. So if you've watched like any horror film, you know what convulsions are. There was someone outside of my body, and it felt like they were grabbing my feet, pulling my feet one way whilst pushing my back the other way. So they were like trying to invert my spine pretty much. And there was like 4 kind of episodes where each one got more and more intense, and I would start to shake, and then my spine would I would go like this, and I would scream, and I'd go, ah! And I was conscious, but I wasn't conscious at the same time. It was like I wasn't in control. And my friend was like, what is going on? I was like sweating. So it's after this night that I opened my Bible for the first time. I had my Bible with me. This was 2023, so it was May 2023 that this happened, and I opened my Bible for the first time. But it was 2022, probably like mid-2022, that I bought a Bible for the first time, but I never opened it. I just bought it because I was kind of curious, and I've been praying for a while. But it wasn't until this event that I was like, I need to open my Bible. And so I left there very quickly. I was not hanging around there. And so after this time, for the rest of 2023, I didn't really have any more spiritual experiences, but I was developing my faith. I was reading my Bible more, I was praying more, I was praying to Christ now, I was praying to Jesus. And so I just began to mature in the faith, and then eventually I had this conviction where I was like, I need to start going to church. I need to start going to church. And it wasn't until February 2024, I think, that I came to church for the first time. And throughout all my travels, I was still kind of struggling, trying to start a business. Just nothing was going for a long, long time. Like I kind of mentioned, I had to sleep on the streets every now and again. There were days where I couldn't afford to buy food, I couldn't afford to eat. But I just had this conviction that I must keep going. I must keep going and just not stop. In 2024, in Switzerland last year, I had a revelation of Christ. Christ revealed himself to me in a vision. I had been praying for ages for this. I'd say, Lord, not in a way to challenge you or to test you, but to know you deeper. Please reveal yourself to me. Can I see you? And it was at that time, the period before then, when I was really struggling in the business. I had barely any money. And it wasn't until I reflected on it the night before, I was journaling, and I was like asking God to reveal himself to me. And then it hit me. It was like, I'm asking to grow in faith, and I'm asking to get closer to God. So of course, he is going to take away all these worldly things from me. He's going to test me. He's testing me. You're saying you want to get closer to me, but do you really want that? So, at the time, I was super low on money, really struggling. I was traveling, so I was away from family and friends. I felt very alone, no spiritual community. And then this kind of hit me. It's like, God is testing me. Do I really want a relationship with him? Do I really want to know him? And then I was like, yes. I was writing that down in my journal. And the next day during a breathwork session, Christ revealed himself to me. I had this vision and there was this huge white light in the sky, and I look up and Christ is coming down from the sky, and he just hugs me. And I remember I was just bawling, crying. So it's not often that you cry as much as that. Just tears of joy, just like my whole body sobbing. Just so much peace, just the peace of God that surpasses all understanding, just washing over me. And it was just beautiful. And it's looking back through my whole life up to this point now where I can really see how God was shaping me through all that. God was refining me through all that. Even though some of the pain was horrible, and seeing people go through horrible things, there is healing and there is redemption from that. Even the most wicked things, even if it's not in this life, but in heaven. And I'm so grateful to him. And I truly don't think that I should be here. It's because of him. He has brought me through all of this. I don't know why I wasn't kidnapped. I don't know why I was saved at the last second. I don't know why I was saved from the situations that I've been through. But it's now the understanding I have, the peace I have, Philippians 4:7 is the peace of God that transcends all understanding will guard your hearts in Christ Jesus. It's that sums it up pretty much. I don't know how to explain, the peace of God that surpasses all understanding. It's how do I explain something that I don't understand myself? Going from those really bad environments to just kind of persevering with him and him pushing me through it all, to now I've lived in 9 different countries. I have my own business where I have clients in the US, in the UK, in Europe. Some of my clients operate in Africa. I've worked with big corporate clients. I've ran 7 ultramarathons. I've had 4 boxing fights. The community I have here in St. Mary's Church in Mold is beautiful. It's just amazing. The Bible studies, the congregation, the worship, praying together. It's like, I don't deserve any of this. I should be dead. And it's, And everything that I'm going to achieve, even though there's 4 months left of this year, everything that I'm going to achieve in the next 4 months is only because of him, and it's only to give glory to him. And he gave up his life for mine, and he gave up his life for all of us. So I will gladly give up my life for him. I'm sure that I will continue to suffer. I'm sure I'm going to go through more tests and trials throughout my life. But now I have the peace of God, and what an honor it is to suffer for the name of Christ. I think I've managed to capture everything of my testimony. And I really pray that even just one person, this can encourage one person. Because sometimes when someone asks you about Jesus, because of the way the world is and the way society is, our hearts have been hardened to God, which is a real shame. Sometimes it takes a testimony to open the doors. And I pray just that this video would, just one person would give hope to one person, would give encouragement to one person. So there is redemption through everything. And I really pray that people can experience this walk with Christ and true unconditional love, true freedom, true redemption, true healing. The things that, you don't understand what's on the other side of just getting down and praying to God and asking for forgiveness and asking for him to come into your life. It surpasses all understanding. Thank you for watching this video. God bless you.